Testing. 1, 2, 3. If there's something strange and off the wall, if there's something weird and it makes your skin crawl, if there's something going on and you feel dread and all, put it out of your head. You just need to relax, hit the rack, and be entertained by Backlit Cinema, the podcast. My name is Zoe. It's spelled Z-O or Z to the O for those of you outside of the U.S. This is the 141 episode, or I should say the 141st episode. Well, however, you know what I'm trying to say. I'm getting through it. We watched the movies of yesteryear, the movies that I love from the latter half of the last millennium. Now, if you like what you're about to hear, then please tell your family, tell your friends, and tell that courageous, free-floating vapor exterminator about Backlit Cinema, the podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is a meeting that's long been in the making. I can't get any words out today. It's a meeting long been in the making. And the reason that it's actually, I can say in the making, that almost works. But anyways, it's been long in the making because life gets in the way. You set your schedules, you try to get together with people, you try to make things work in your life, and then life gets in the way. But we've been able to cruise past that. We've been able to break down barriers, to destroy the opposition, to make way for peace in the galaxy. And I say that because my next guest is the very esteemed, the very honored, and the very busy Harvey Laguerre, the man who is in charge of the podcast Men Are the Prize, and the co-host of Love is Black podcast, and a frequent contributor to I Do Not Make These Rankings podcast network on their podcast, The Mass Debaters. Ladies and gentlemen, Harvey Laguerre.
I like that introduction. Thank you. I appreciate it. Life is busy. If you're listening and you have kids, first of all, I'm glad that you have time to listen because your kids don't let you do anything, as I have discovered. But any opportunity to talk about movies and such, I am thrilled to do so. I am Harvey Laguerre, host of Men Are the Prize, the podcast. It is an open space for men to be open, vulnerable, and emotional. We talk about stuff that men don't usually talk about so that men can be the men we're supposed to be. I am the co-host of the first real podcast I got into, which is Love is Black. It's a podcast I do with my wife, P.R.I.Z.E. We talk about Black love. It's a space for love in a Black space to be seen positively because it's not always done. I will correct one thing. The other podcast that I do, I am a founding member of the I Did Not Make These Rankings podcast network. We do drafts every Tuesday. I'm part of that group, and I'm on most of the time. Sometimes life will just be like, nah, son, you can't do that. Your wife is like, you done too many podcasts. Put them headphones down, bro. Just hang out, do whatever. But we have fun every Tuesday drafting on whatever subject it can be. I love podcasting. I love expressing and talking about stuff. And if it's movies or music, it is all I live for. You can find my podcast, Men Are the Prize, at harveylaguerre.com. HarveyLaguerre.com. Every Saturday, an episode drops. As we record, it's a Saturday. Another episode came out today at the crack of 6 a.m. Wake up, brush your teeth, and then listen to a podcast, preferably mine. But let's talk about one of my favorite movies. I love this. This is going to be fun. Well, can I get up into, are you talking or am I just going to go wait? You do.
Well, hold on. You answered. Mm-hmm. You answer all of my questions, which is awesome because it's like, so you're one of the founding members of I did not make these rankings, so it's kind of hard for me for that title to stick in my head. So
I know I still don't get it right, bro.
Pardon me, but yeah, that's amazing. It's like, because I know that you're so busy that I just made the assumption that it was a network that you were invited to join.
Right. It's cool. Yeah, we're all a bunch of podcasters. We love it. We're all friends, so we all have our own podcast. That's why it's a network. Right. But then we get together once, and then we draft random subjects, random stuff. The summer's coming up, so I don't know how many we'll do. We'll still do some and still have fun. It's just us getting together and talking about stuff and doing fun drafts and just reminding ourselves that, life isn't that hectic. Sometimes just doing something fun is important. So we enjoy.
Yeah, and you were kind enough to invite me on for one of your episodes, and it gets kind of toasty up there.
Oh, we don't play, man. I'm saying a week of chaos. We all have kids. Almost all of us have kids. We have hectic lives. So when we get up in this, we talk the talk, and obviously you're always invited to come back. But I think when you were there, we had fun. It's enjoyable. It's not something to be taken too seriously, but we take it a little bit more seriously than we need to.
Right,
that's just the way that we are.
I forgot what it was like it was like a debate within a debate. I forgot what it was.
I forgot what were we talking about. Do you remember?
I think it may have had something to do with a different world. I can't remember, but it got serious. That's all I want to say.
I don't know. Was it a different world or was it Family Matters? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I would have to go back and actually listen to the episode. But I remember that was the clip that you put out to promote the episode. Whatever it was.
We have fun. We all have our opinions. We take them seriously, and you be damned if you disagree with us, bro.
Right. Right.
But it's fun.
Also, I wanted to point out, I was thinking about doing like a mini Ghostbusters back, but you say you hadn't seen most of the Ghostbusters properties. Right. So I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then at the same time, I was thinking, there's a lot of Ghostbusters out there too.
Yes, because when you said that, I'm like, wait a minute. I know I've seen the first two. I don't know if I want to see the rest of them. I'm very partial to the first two.
Right.
So might not. So it's probably a combination of, do I need to see the rest? Especially, excuse me, and no disrespect to the women. I love the women, but when they did the version with nothing about that attracted me.
Right.
There was nothing about it. It was like, wow, I need to see that.
Right.
It didn't do anything for me. So I feel like it came and it went. I guess it wasn't as popular as maybe they had hoped.
Right.
And maybe it was good, but I guess the actors, it didn't do it for me. Especially, I'm an 80s kid.
Right.
So I almost don't want people to cover 80s stuff. It was done best in the 80s.
Right.
I don't need you to do Goonies ever again. I don't need you to touch E.T. I don't need you to do Beverly Hills Cop. I don't need you to do 48 Hours. Leave that stuff alone.
Right.
In my humble opinion. So that's me. Yes.
Well, I always look at remakes where it's not necessarily for us. So when a remake goes out there, we can see it or we can just choose to ignore it because we have what we had when we was growing up, and then we can always revisit it. Like my opinion is like, yeah, you can go ahead and make the remakes because the original is always going to be, well, theoretically, the original was always going to be a original. Right. 99% of the time, the original is not going to go away. And I say that because a lot of the stuff that we grew up with were remakes, and it's remakes like what's it called? Not Get Shorty. What was it was called it was Get Shorty. That was a remake. It was a remake of an earlier film. Or Cape Fear. That was a remake. And it's like I didn't even know that these movies were remakes. It just
the original Cape Fear is really creepy.
Right.
Creepy. And De Niro was good in the remake, but wow. The original was ridiculous.
Well, I'm pretty sure that they didn't have him chewing off somebody's cheek in an original. That's why I can't go back to watch it. And I saw that in the theater. So when you see something like that in the theater, you're like, oh, right.
Agreed.
But wow. so I understand the debate how some people feel about remakes, but then I also recognize that we've had some great remakes growing up. And the other thing is that speaking of remakes, I just watched the remake. I watched the Fall Guy in the movie theaters.
How was that?
And I had a great time. I liked the callbacks. Like a lot of younger people are not going to know the callbacks, but when I saw and they're very, very slight call. It's like you actually have to be paying attention to catch the callbacks, and they're not the crux of the story. Like the only character from the original series that actually kind of returns is the character of Colt Seavers, but he's completely different in the movie than he was in the TV show. The whole movie is a different vibe.
Okay.
So I would kind of
Okay.
liken it to how they remade 21 Jump Street. Like 21 Jump Street was a complete comedy. This one isn't so much a comedy, but it's I would call it like a comedic adventure, I guess.
They didn't think they were funny when they were doing it, but so it feels if when you watch it now, like it's so campy
Oh, you mean
that you
21
like
Jump Street?
not even no. I mean the Fall Guy. The Fall
Oh
Guy was,
yeah,
I
yeah,
guess,
yeah,
supposed
yeah,
to.
yeah. It's
But
definitely campy. That's because we was watching it as kids, and we took it serious as a
right.
heart attack. Like something like the A Team or Knight
Oh my
Rider. We took
god.
those seriously. To us, those were dramas, right?
Right. You watch it now and you're like Hasselhoff walking around with the coat and the collar up, and you're like, why is he so serious?
Right,
Like
right.
it's really interesting. Perspective is a big thing. When you watch it as a
Yeah.
kid or as an 80s kid, you're like, oh my God, this is serious. The music is changing, something about to happen. You watch it now and you're like, Hasselhoff is a bad actor. Like, why am I taking this seriously? Why is Mr. Feeney the voice of a car? Like all these things. It's so weird. It's so interesting. It is.
Right. But no, I really enjoyed it. What you call it? It's kind of hard to quantify. I love I actually did a special episode, and I did a video episode of that. I'm just kind of dabbling in YouTube, and so I can say that there were a lot of moments when I laughed out loud in films because and then the premise, not the premise, but the plot. Well, I guess I should say the plot and the premise is a little bit preposterous, but that is one of the things that made it fun. So
Okay.
I mean, I guess if you like Ryan Gosling and what's her name, Emily Blunt, it's definitely a movie that you can enjoy, and it also has what's the dude from Black Panther that played I guess in the comics he was called Man Ape.
No. What was it?
Oh dag, M'Baka. He played M'Baka. I can't remember his name, but he's in the movie, and he's using his natural accent, and whenever he does that, he sounds funny.
Okay.
I didn't know he's from the Caribbean. I forget exactly which island. And I was like, oh,
Okay.
that would explain, because it sounds like it might be a slight British accent, but it's off, right? But that's his
Okay.
that's his natural
that's what he
accent.
regularly sounds. That makes sense.
Yeah. So it was kind of fun. But I haven't seen, other than that, I haven't seen a lot of movies lately. How about yourself?
Lately it's difficult, obviously, with busy. What's the last movie I went to see? I honestly can't tell you. Went to you know, it is when you have kids and they're young. Typically, it's kids movies that you end up going to see.
Right.
I honestly can't even remember. My wife will take the kids because I can't.
Right.
I can't do it. What's the last movie? The last movie I saw would have been something I just laid in my room and watched.
Right.
I don't get to see as many movies as I would like. It's more series. Have you seen Baby Reindeer?
I've heard about it. I heard a lot of people talk about it, and I was like,
Dude.
yeah, I think I'm going to avoid that one.
Oh, you okay? Okay, good. Listen, it's so random, it's so over the top, it's so extra.
Yeah.
I can't remember. That's terrible. It's the last movie I saw. That's bad. I don't remember the last movie I've seen. I love movies. I was just holding my big book. I still have like 3 books. Did you ever buy those big? You could slip your DVDs.
Yeah. I still got those too. I got like 3 of those.
I just showed them to my daughters. They're like, "Oh my god, those are DVDs!"
Right.
I was a reminder of just how old I really am. Like they didn't even know what those things were.
Also, another thing that I noticed is that DVDs. I never thought that this would happen, but DVDs are looking bad, right? Like when you play a DVD, especially when you play it on an HD television, you're like, oh my God, this looks so bad.
Oh my God, so outdated. So what's the last thing I had them watch? We watched The Ring. I had them watch The Ring because my girls like horror. I'm like, let's sit down, let's watch this. That's probably the last movie I sat down and watched, but I haven't seen anything really, really recent, which is embarrassing.
I guess it's the American version.
Yes. They're not ready for they're not ready for Ringu.
Well,
but Ring.
Yeah, I never seen the original. I always get confused of whether I've seen the original or the American version. That's
lately
it's funny
the
that
good
way.
horror stuff is Ringu. Ringu's the original of The Ring. Old Boy.
Right.
Original. Yeah, that's another good one. But I don't know. Ringu's better than Ring, but the Ring is good anyway. So
Right,
it's a
right,
good
right.
idea. Yeah.
I think I should check out the original. Oh, a fun fact
Yes, you
about
should.
Ringu is that
Mm.
it's called that because the American producers thought it sounded Japanese. Like it's not.
It's not.
Because
Isn't it Korean? Aren't what is it?
Ringu is not a Japanese word.
Yeah. They just did that just to mess.
Because they called it that because it sounded Japanese.
Oh my god.
That's so funny to me.
Americans. Bastards.
All right, so that was good banter we had there. Let's go on, and why don't you tell us? Let's go to the opening credits.
All right, we are talking about Ghostbusters. But okay, you're having. You can't say that without the song popping in your head.
Right.
Oh my god. Oh my god. After having their paranormal research funding pulled by the university, 3 academics get together to strike out on their own. Using the findings of their research and their combined expertise, they realize that they could track down and detain ghosts. They quickly go into the business of exterminating ghosts haunting the locals in New York City, and business is booming. They hire a 4th exterminator to try and handle the workload, and they're going to need him because in the midst of their activities, a power of fantastic proportions has awakened. Can just the 4 of these Ghostbusters exterminate a god?
Yes, that is the question that's asked by this movie. Speaking of which, seeing that your daughters love horror movies, it seems to me that they need to be exposed to this.
Yes, they know the theme song. They love that song. They haven't seen the movie, but I don't think this is a horror movie at all.
No, it's not a horror movie, but it's horror adjacent. Right. It's close. It borrows some horror tropes. So it seems to me that if they like comedy, then I think that they'd probably get a kick out of this.
Definitely.
Right.
So we'll watch it. We will watch it as a family together. There's a lot of 80s movies my kids need to see, and Ghostbusters is one.
Right. There's only one. Dan Aykroyd has his dream, but other than that, they should be fine. So Ghostbusters was released June 8th, 1984, produced by Columbia Pictures, Delphi Films, and Black Rhino Productions. It grossed over $243 million in the US and Canada and $296 million worldwide on a reported budget of $30 million. So to put that into perspective, we adjust for inflation. That would mean that if it were released today, it would have grossed something like $712 million. It would have been near $1 billion. And that's just in the US and Canada. And then when you account for worldwide gross, it would have been something like $868 million. That's amazing. Off of a budget that would have been something like $87 million. So they would have paid a lot for this movie, but the return that they got was fantastic.
It'd have been worth every penny.
Worth every single penny. There's like, they really did it. And there's some fun facts about the movie at the end when we talk about the trivia, but let's get started to talk about who was in the movie.
Obviously the star, that's Bill Murray, coming off of some great films, stuff like Stripes and the stuff he had done. But I think this has really put him in the stratosphere. Dr. Peter Venkman was the character that Bill Murray played. You've known him probably from stuff like Lost in Translation, which is a fun movie. But the movie that I love him for, my favorite movie for Bill Murray, and one of my top 5 movies of all time, is Rushmore. I absolutely love Rushmore. And then Moonrise Kingdom. But he's done a plethora of films. But these are just a few that he's done.
No, he's done so many movies. It was just happenstance that I actually put Rushmore on there, especially since I've not seen a whole bunch of Bill Murray movies.
Really? No, Groundhog Day.
Yeah, I've seen that one. And I just recently seen Scrooged, and I've seen that's a great
Christmas
movie. I love that movie. And what was the other one? You mentioned Groundhog Day. I think that I've seen Stripes. I think that's what made me kind of like a fan of Bill Murray. It's
Mhm.
off of Saturday Night Live and Stripes,
Right.
but I don't recall seeing the entire movie.
That's all right. He's done quite a bit. He's got quite the catalog of stuff.
Yeah, because he's done comedy, he's done drama, so he's
Yeah.
pretty good. And then obviously I've seen him in Zombieland.
Right. Of course. Of course. Of course.
So up next is Dan Aykroyd, which I discovered is a very hard name to spell. He's also stars as Dr. Raymond Stantz. You may have seen him in Sneakers, Coneheads, or Driving This Daisy, and so many other movies. Also, he's very into the paranormal stuff. Like he's not just in here playing a character that's attracted to ghosts. He's deep into paranormal activity. So that's delightful.
Also, next, Sigourney Weaver. We know Sigourney. We know her from, I'm looking on this list. You don't have her from Aliens, which is where most people would know her from.
Right.
She plays the part of Dana Barrett. We know her from Finding Dory, Chappie, The Cabin in the Woods. I remember her from Aliens, Dave. She's done quite a plethora of films.
Yeah.
This was fun. This was a different for her because she wasn't always in comedies.
Right.
So I think that's one of the reasons she chose this, because she was always a serious lady, but getting to do this kind of, even to be like the kind of sexy character in there, being the love interest for Dr. Venkman.
Right.
She's important. Yep.
I didn't put Aliens on purpose, any of the Alien movies on purpose, because for one thing, that was super obvious, and for the other thing, I did the whole. Well, I didn't do the entire Alien series, just the first 4 Alien series last year in October. Well, October and November, so that was fun, and so. Like, as I do these things and I pick out movies that people have been in, if I do actors over and over again, it gets harder and harder to find stuff that's good that people may have known them from. But and also, the Avatar series, like she's really, and then apparently she's in talks to be in Star Wars. That's the rumor going around. So that will be interesting.
Okay. All right.
So up next is Harold Ramis. He plays Dr. Egon Spangler. You may have seen him in Walk Hard, The Dewey Cox Story, Knocked Up, or High Fidelity. A very talented writer. He's extremely funny. I love his choices in Ghostbusters. He's and then his what do you call it? The lines you say that's not in the script. What is that called again?
Oh, when he's ad-libbing?
Yeah,
he's
the ad-libs that he does. Just
everything. Bill Murray ad-libs the whole damn movie, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
So much stuff he just says whatever he feels like, but it's hilarious. Yeah,
whenever he runs up against a director that doesn't like people who ad-lib, there's going to be some friction. But here, he basically ad-libbed everything.
All right. And R.I.P. Harold Ramis. I think he passed away.
Yeah.
But he's fantastic. Next would be Rick Moranis, who plays the part of Louis Tully. He's done quite a bit. You have some good stuff here. Parenthood, so good. Spaceballs, classic. Little Shop of Horrors, absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I like him from My Blue Heaven that he did with Steve Martin. I love that movie. Who Shrunk the Kids? I think he did. Yeah, he was in the movies. One. Yeah. Rick Moranis he's perfect for that part too. Kind of that squeaky kind of small guy, but he ends up being awesome. But yes, I love Rick Moranis.
And not only that, but it's like that's kind of his character. That's basically what he plays in most movies. But that's similar to Little Shop of Horrors, also a remake. That's for a long time my favorite musical, and I loved him in Spaceballs. So yeah, he's
Spaceballs, so fun,
fantastic.
So fun.
He's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Up next is Annie Potts. She played Janine Melnitz. You can find her in Toy Story, Pretty in Pink, and Who's Harry Crumb.
So good. John Candy, Who's Harry Crumb is amazing. He gets no respect. John Candy that's so hilarious.
Right.
I love that you picked that movie. I can also say, she hasn't done as many movies lately. I just finished watching the finale for Young Sheldon. She was on that show. That show just ended, and she played his grandmother.
Oh, so
on
was she
that
on there
show.
all the time? Was she a main? She was a series regular, or was she just?
She on Young Sheldon, yes.
Oh,
Yes,
that's
she
pretty
was.
awesome.
Definitely. Yes. Yeah, she was good. Mhm. Next will be William Atherton. That is Walter Peck. That is he. You've known him from The Last Samurai, The Crow, Salvation, and Mad City. He's I guess, the bad guy. I guess, he's government. He's the institution. He's like, that's right. This man has no dick. It's just pretty stuff.
He's not necessarily the bad guy, but he's definitely sort of an antagonist. He's an antagonist. He's an obstacle for our heroes to go over. He's kind of a mini boss. And what's funny about that is that he's you may not have seen him in Crow Salvation. It was such a terrible movie, but but every time you see him, he kind of plays that role of kind of being a dick, and he kind of reprised his role in the last Ghostbusters movie, Frozen Empire. And I felt like it was a good place, like where they placed him in the movie was great, but at the same time, it could have been so much better. At least
he also was in Die Hard, right? He's the reporter in Die Hard.
He was playing the exact same, right? The exact same thing in Die Hard. Just kind of a dick character who kind of gets in the way of the antagonist, and it was absolutely beautiful. So, last but certainly not least is Ernie Hudson. He played Winston Zedmore. You may have also seen him in the original theatrical version of The Crow, or Miss Congeniality, or Congo. So
or
far,
more recently, walking around in great shape like a 74-year-old man.
Right.
See him lately, just all shiny and such, freshly lotioned in shape.
Right. Especially since he's about the same age as Bill Murray, and you put them together, it's like something's in the water.
Somebody's drinking water and somebody's just drinking.
Right. I'm not trying to body shame, but Ernie Hudson looks incredible. I am body shaming. I'm body shaming myself because it's like he could be my father and he looks so much better than me.
Keep him away from the wife. Don't let him get a look at him.
Yeah,
this is my father. No, right. We don't want her seeing him.
Right. And he hasn't been in a lot of like blockbuster movies, but he is always working. He's been in so many TV shows. He's been in almost like, what do you call that? Cameo in so many movies. So he gets around. He stay working.
He's getting into that character actor mode where he's always kind of playing that part. But whenever there's like black series, I feel like they find a way to put Ernie Hudson in.
Oh yeah. He's going to be there because he's reliable. He works hard.
He's the grandfather, or he's the head of that mob, or he's that judge, or something. Right. Those typical black characters, they always find a way to slip them in.
Right.
This movie was directed by Ivan Reitman. You've known his films. You've seen stuff that he's directed. He directed Draft Day. And that movie always comes around when draft season comes along. You get to see that save seed, and I want all my picks back. Blah blah blah. My Super Ex-Girlfriend, 6 Days, 7 Nights, Junior, absolute classic. Kindergarten Cop, absolute classic. Apparently, him and Schwarzenegger were really cool because these last few are Schwarzenegger, Junior, Kindergarten Cop, and Twins.
Right.
Which might be Schwarzenegger's best movie between those two. Kindergarten Cop and Twins. He has such great comedic chops. Right. So it's good to have Ivan Reitman directing him. But that's just some of the stuff. I think he's done more.
Oh, yeah, he's done so much more. What's really interesting is that how I think he was the one who kind of shepherded Schwarzenegger into doing comedy because he's such he's serious, and then he's an action hero where he does these one-liners and these quips. And so he just decided to go like whole hog into comedy. And and he's just really good at it. And it's like, and then just him not even like sometimes he's just playing the straight man. So in Kindergarten Cops, he's playing the straight man to these kids.
Right.
And it's like the classic line, it's not a tumor. It's not even a tumor.
But that's the thing. He doesn't take himself too seriously, which is why it works. He's this super seriously big muscle guy, but he's so funny in Twins. He is the absolute straight man in Twins.
Right.
And it's Oh my! Oh, you're right. You're right. I have to watch Kindergarten Cop again. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, some of these I definitely need to put on the
Mhm.
list, the grand list
Mhm.
of movies. So,
Yes.
this movie was written by Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, and uncredited Rick Moranis. And so I guess that he had some significant contributions other than just throwing in a line or two. He must have really.
Right.
I think it was for developing his character. That's probably what it is for. So Aykroyd, he's also written The Blues Brothers, The Coneheads, Spies Like Us, and Dragnet. I think he was like
Mhm.
a huge Dragnet fan. Yeah,
Yes.
and he
Yes.
had to get
He was great in
yeah,
Dragnet. Oh,
yeah.
he was great. Complete straight man.
He
Yes.
had to
Yes.
get that out of his system. And
Yes, he
then
did.
Harold Ramis, obviously Groundhog Day. Am I saying that right? Groundhog Day,
Gron-
Stripes, and Analyze This. And all of those were great movies. Except I've not seen Analyze This, so I'm only talking about Analyze This from Reputation.
Right. No, it's good. Billy Crystal, Robert De Niro, really good film. Actually, really good. Yeah.
And then finally, Rick Moranis, who wrote Strange Brew, which is not a movie that I'm all that familiar with, but I'm very curious about it. So very talented writers that got together and they hashed out. But I think that Aykroyd really did write most of this movie.
Yeah, like you said, he's all about the extraterrestrial. That I don't not the para whatever.
Yeah, the
so that
paranormal.
kind of fit in. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it kind of fit into his wheelhouse. Yeah, a lot of it is him.
Like ghosts and witches and such.
Yeah. The score of this was done by Elmer Bernstein. Theme, of course, by Ray Parker Jr. If we know, was this the one that he got sued for by Huey Lewis in the News? Was it? Or
Yes, he did
Yes.
because it takes a lot of beats from Back in Time or something like that.
Is it? No. I Want a New Drug. I think.
Yeah, I Want a New Drug. Yeah.
I think that's.
And then when you listen to them together, it's like, yeah, that does sound a lot like that.
You're damn right. It's like, dude, like you didn't even try to hide it. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we know Elmer has 258 credits to his name. Let's see. Far From Heaven, Wild Wild West, which is an atrocious film. I can't even believe you put this on here. The Rainmaker, which is actually I like that movie. It's not one that gets talked about a lot of these law films. It's usually more The Client or other stuff, and of course, Devil in the Blue Dress. He did the score for Devil in the Blue Dress. It's a phenomenal. You seen Devil in the Blue Dress? Have you seen it?
I don't remember. That's the one with Denzel Washington, right?
Oh, it's amazing.
It's Denzel Washington and Don Cheadle.
Don Cheadle. He got an Oscar nomination for that supporting role.
I am 90% sure that I seen that movie, but I have no memory of it.
It's so good. It's so good. Yo, he also did the score for Hoodlum, which is a good movie too. Ray Parker Jr. wrote and produced and performed Ghostbusters. Yeah, I'm talking ahead. I didn't read this. You literally talk about this stuff. Ghostbusters had to settle a lawsuit with Huey because the melody from Ghostbusters was allegedly based on the song "I Want a New Drug" by Huey Lewis and the News. Yes, but that song was a hit for a long time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Huey Lewis can write, can't he?
Yes, he can. Yeah, he knows. He definitely can.
The other thing is that Wild Wild West is there because it's just one of those movies where the soundtrack is better than the movie. It's like that. The song that Will Smith did.
Saying much, bro. Oh God.
Yeah, but the song that Will Smith did, Wild Wild West, that's like one of my favorite songs. It's like it's so good.
Wild Wild West.
It's like he did what he did similar to what he did with what's that movie called?
Men in Black.
Yeah, Men in Black, where he wrote the theme for that and basically had the plot in the movie in the song. He did the same for Wild Wild West, and I just love the wordplay on explaining the movie. And I think that it could have been great if they didn't have the giant spider at the end. I think that
and what's really interesting about that? Are you a Kevin Smith fan? Do you know Kevin Smith?
Yeah. I remember Kevin Smith talking about it.
So you okay? Good. I was gonna say if you didn't know like the whole story with the spider and where it was supposed to be, as opposed to where it ended
Yeah.
up, but you know it. So
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
and it's better.
there was a producer who really wanted to put a giant spider in the film. Will Smith was one of the people who tried to write one of the Superman movies, and the producer wanted a giant spider. And I guess he wrote the giant spider, but it was Tim Burton's Superman, so that movie
Right.
never got made. And then they
Thank
showed
God.
it in The Flash, like they had Superman fighting, where they had the Nick Cage Superman fighting a giant spider in The Flash as an homage to that whole situation.
Ah,
So, yeah. So I remember Kevin Smith talking about that on a couple of occasions. But yeah, it was a producer who really wanted a giant spider, and he didn't get it in the Tim Burton Superman, so he crammed it into Wild Wild West, right?
yeah, yeah. That's literally what he did. You're so right. That is it. Mhm.
So that's it for what we have for the opening credits. And the only announcement that I have is that I'm going to be a guest on Movie Lovers tonight. Oh, so the thing that I have here is like old information because I didn't
Right.
update it.
Yeah, we didn't do it originally, right?
But I
right,
did.
right.
So if all of this is successful, then by the time you hear this, I will have appeared on Movie Lovers Tonight on May 18th at 9 p.m. on YouTube, and we're going to do a live stream, or we will have done a live. See, I'm talking in the future. Now I'm time traveling. We will have done a live stream of Days of Thunder, and we're going to talk about that. So that would have been fun had you watched it on May 18th at 9 p.m. So if you hadn't watched it, go check it out. And I can't think of anything except that maybe I'll put out a news, what do you call it? Not an episode of the newsletter, an issue of the newsletter. Maybe I'll do that because I hadn't done one in almost 2 months, and because it's like I wanted to like rededicate myself to doing the newsletter because for a minute I was doing a live stream of playing Marvel Snap, and then I realized I'm spreading myself too thin. I gotta pull back a little bit, but now, but I'm at the same time I'm experimenting with YouTube videos and TikTok videos. And it's like, I think I'm still having the same problem. So yeah,
we got to know our limits, man.
right.
Know
We
our
got to know our limits. So that's it for that segment. And we're going to go to our next segment. I hope I'm pressing the right button. We're going to find out. Let's see if I press the right button. That was it. We're going to talk about our 5 favorite parts. So I want you to start off. This is one of your favorite movies, one of the movies you grew up with. I know that you mentioned one of them already, the thing about the dickless. So, but whichever you want to start off with, let me know which one of your favorite parts are.
All of them is fun. This movie, because of the actors that you have, a lot of these guys would have done like the SNLs and type of stuff. So you have a bunch of ad-libbing people who would just say stuff just because they can. This is Bill Murray at his best. It's like when somebody asks you if you're a god, you say yes. He's not the one who said it. He is the one who said it.
No, it was that was Zedmore who said that.
That was Zedmore?
Yeah.
Oh, it was? Oh, that's right. You're right. So when that's one of my favorite ones.
Right.
My favorite ones are all those random quips.
Right.
Stuff that may not even entirely, but that sounds like that would have been in the script.
Right.
But a lot of Bill Murray stuff probably wasn't. That's my first.
Oh,
One
okay.
of my favorites. Mm-hmm.
So one of mine was it like you said, there's so many. I wrote down all of my favorite parts, and so I'm trying to like figure out what I'm just trying to pick out 5 of them. So so I don't even know if I wrote this down. But one of my favorite parts is I'll put it this way: the cold open, and you got basically everything in the cold open, but I'm going to kind of zero it down to Bill Murray, and he's doing his psychic tests of the students. So he's got the male and female students, and they're sitting there, and they got electrodes connected to them, and he's holding cards up, and the students are supposed to be guessing what's on the other side of the card, and they're like either a wavy line or straight lines or circles or triangles or just random symbols in this card deck, and they have to guess what these symbols are just by looking at the back of the card. And every time the girl answers, she gets it wrong every single time, but he doesn't do anything to her. And then when the kid does it, he gets it wrong too, but he always getting electric shocks. So he's telling the girl that she's right and telling the dude that he's wrong, and shocking him every time. And it was like, you didn't tell us we was going to get electric shocks. And he's just, you want this $5 or don't you? Right? And then one time the kid does get it right, and it almost seems like he actually sees what Bill Murray is holding up. Dr. Venkman is holding up, but Venkman shocks him anyway. And then the female student, he's lying to her, telling her that she's getting it correct, and he's like, I think you have real talent. So now he's gassing her up. So that's the whole thing is pretty awesome. And then what's his name comes in, Dr. Ray Stantz. So he comes in because he's found the ghost or whatever, and then Venkman hits him on the top of the head. I'm in the middle of something. So yeah, that's a classic open. I love that. That was pretty awesome.
I'm simple. Like dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Like great quotes. Like I use that in stuff. But no,
yeah,
it always pops up.
Right.
That's every situation.
That's definitely Bill Murray. That definitely sounds like that would have been ad-lib, because everybody's saying something serious and actually biblical, right? And he said,
he drops
dads
this in,
and dogs and cats living together. I wanna extend that. I want to extend to where he so the mayor, like, this is a meeting, right? So this is a meeting with the mayor, and this is after the EPA dude shuts down the containment. All the ghosts are released, and then the Ghostbusters are trying to convince the mayor, because they actually go to jail. The EPA puts them in jail. The mayor gets them out, and they're trying to convince the mayor that they can stop all of this. There's a bunch of stuff is happening in the city. The Ghostbusters are trying to convince the mayor that they can stop it. And Walter Peck, the EPA, is like, nah, they need to go back in jail. They're the ones doing this. They're releasing hallucinogens that's causing people to believe that they're seeing ghosts. And the Ghostbusters saying, well, let us go out and try to fix it. And if we fail, you can put us back in jail and you don't lose anything. But if we succeed, and here's the part that I'm getting to, this is what Peter Venkman says, but if we're right, then you, Lenny, would have saved the lives of millions of registered voters.
Yes, so good.
And I like the way he spoke. He spoke in terms that the mayor could understand. He said millions of registered voters. He's like, forget everybody else.
He knew. And Peck is like, are you actually listening to this?
Right.
Get him out of here.
Right.
He's like, I'm gonna miss you. Oh, the whole scene is great.
Right.
The whole scene.
And the trip of it is that Peter Venkman is right, because the mayor loses nothing for trying the plan. It's like he loses absolutely nothing. Like, at worst, it's just going to continue happening, and he has to go to Plan B, and he can put the Ghostbusters in jail. So he loses nothing by taking a chance on the Ghostbusters to see if they can stop it. So that was pretty awesome. So let me get to one of my other favorite parts. You know what's interesting? I forgot. It's been a while since I watched the Ghostbusters. I forgot that Dana was a musician. Like, so she's actually in the orchestra. So
she played. Was she the harp or whatever she played?
It was I think it was
the bass. Was it?
I think it was a large string instrument, but I can't remember which one. So not God, I can't remember, but I'm 90% sure.
I thought it was the big. Well, I don't know what the big. It's not a violin.
No, it's not. It's like a viola or something like that. I can't remember, but I'm 90% sure that it's a large string instrument that she has to kind of lug around. But she plays multiple instruments, but that's what she plays in the orchestra. And I like let me skip to the first call. So the first call, when they end up they finally got somebody, like, Dana is the first customer, and the only thing they can do for her is some consultation, because they go to her apartment and there's no ghosts there. So they basically they keep her number, and they start to investigate the things that she said she saw, like with Zool and all this kind of stuff. So they have to do research. But They get their first real call when somebody calls them, like they call the fire department, and they call them to get rid of a ghost. So this is an emergency. So they go to the hotel. So the whole thing where they're at the hotel, and they're doing all of their stuff at the hotel. So that's funny. So what I'm going down to is that. So what they ended up doing is the ghost that they're hunting is what we come to know as Slimer. And so Slimer is like just wilding out all over the place. They're chasing Slimer. They're using their protons. Like they're basically destroying like thousands of dollars worth of property. And then, so finally, Peter Venkman is face to face with Slimer, and then he gets slimed. And when he's found, and so, Dr. Stantz finds him on the floor, all slimed up, and Peter Venkman says he slimed me. So I love that moment. That's a classic moment.
I gotta watch this again. There's so many scenes. There's so many things.
But also, this is like the moment when he's at the when they're at City Hall. So what I really liked is like when they left the hotel and they have the ghost in their trap, and like the trap is like smoking and whatnot. And then they talk about how much money it's going to cost. I think Venkman was like $2,000 or something like that. And the guy was like, I had no idea it was going to be so much. I won't pay it. And Venkman was like, well, we can put it right back. And it was like, we certainly can, Dr. Venkman. They start turning around. And the guy was like, all right. I'll pay to get rid of this ghost. So that was a great, their first call. I really loved that.
I don't, like I said, since we love quotes, at least for me, it's like, we came, we saw, we kicked ass. Right. I love it. That might have been in there because that leads to like a good little montage.
Right.
But I don't know. That probably still is from the mind of Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Funny. So funny. Oh my God. So good.
So he's kind of paraphrasing, I guess, this famous general's quotate, this thing that the general said, where we came, we saw, we conquered. And so he turns it to we came, we saw, we kicked its ass. And that's pretty, and that was the first time I ever heard that. So I didn't know that he was paraphrasing somebody earlier. I thought that was one of the most original things I ever heard. And this is when I first saw it when I was a child. I remember when I saw this on the first time I saw it was on TV. I think it was on HBO. And yeah, it had to have been HBO because I got all the foul language, and it was one of the funniest things I have ever saw when I watched it. That first viewing, just on the floor in the living room, just watching it on a color CRT, and just the funniest thing I ever heard came out of this movie. So yeah, that was awesome. It's funny, like when you watch stuff as a child, everything you see, you think is like the original thing.
Right. It's not the first. It's just the newest to you. Right. That's all it is.
Right. It's not new. It's just new to me. Since we're talking about quotes, I love this part when what you call it. So it's Janine, and she is frustrated because they're getting all of this work and whatnot, and Peter Venkman won't give her a raise or anything. He won't improve her benefits or anything like that. And it's like it almost like he's like inviting her to quit the job if she didn't like her work situation. And she gets frustrated, and the phone rings. She picked up the phone. It's like, Ghostbusters, what do you want? So that's a classic line. I really like that. It's one of the things I think of when I think of the movie Ghostbusters, when that happens.
I think what's funny is that the little relationship, Lewis, eventually that those two have. Like, I like Annie Potts' character. She's funny, those two, because, obviously Lewis is just kind of the squeaky, kind of nerdy kind of guy, but she sees him. She likes him. They're babysitting the kid, and all of a sudden, just let's get to business, and he becomes a man that night. I think it's so much fun. This movie has a multitude of great seeds and quotes. I could watch. I have to. My kids don't appreciate it. I have to watch it again.
Right.
Next, then you give me one more. I'll give you one more.
Right,
Are we doing 5 each?
Yeah, 5 each.
Oh, okay. Oh no, I have to think. I gotta think about my last two. I gotta get back into that.
All right, let me grab one from my list. So there is so the whole the whole keymaster thing was a nice little. I like that as generally part of the plot, where Dana becomes the keymaster. No, she becomes the gate holder, the gatekeeper. Yeah, she becomes the gatekeeper,
and he's the key master.
And
right.
Lewis is the keymaster, right? And obviously that makes sense because she's a gatekeeper because she's a female, so she has the lock or the hole, so to speak. She has she has the input, and and the keymaster has the thing that you put into the insert. He has the thing that you put into the hole. So that's how I remember who's who.
Nice description.
Right. And so there's one time when Venkman comes to her apartment and she opens the door, is like, "Are you the keymaster?" And he says no. And then she just slams the door in his face. And then he knocks on the door again, and then like she's never seen him before in her life, is like, "Are you the keymaster?" And he's like, yeah. So she's immediately trying to jump his bones, and then it was like, you know what? And she said, I think she even said, "I want you inside me," and he says, "I think there are too many people in there already." So yeah, all of that is fun. It's like Sigourney Weaver being possessed is fantastic. So the whole thing. And then you have the same thing with Lewis. And Lewis is kind of sniffing around, kind of like a dog. And then one time he comes upon a horse and he's like, "Don't worry, my brother, we will be free when or something like that." And then when they actually capture him, he's basically kind of acting like a captured animal because the Ghostbusters actually capture him, and he only gets free when the EPA comes down and shuts down their operation. So yeah, that was the whole thing is with the whole concept. And then like the keymaster and the gatekeeper, they finally come together, making one of the oddest couples that you'll ever see.
Yeah. Moranis would never get close to a woman like that. Like, you don't have a chance.
Well, here's the thing. It might have. If she had a different personality or whatever, because you see Casey Kasem and his wife. That's kind of what it reminds me of. So I'm sure that if they were different, but it's like, and he's trying to get with Dana the entire time, but she's really not interested in him. He's not her type, not necessarily because he's short and nerdy, but he do lock himself out of the apartment all the time.
All the time.
So, and then he's the type of person that when he has a party, he invites all of his clients so he can make it a tax write-off, that sort of thing. So yeah, he's maybe a little bit on the nerd side. Maybe that's her problem with him. Not really in touch with his feelings, so to speak.
Could be.
But yeah, so the whole concept of that I really like that.
I found one of the, so obviously Winston, who kind of comes in towards, I don't know, I'm not to say the end, maybe the middle towards the end. Right. He's looking for a job and he has to do the interview. And I'm like, so Jadid is like, "Do you believe in UFOs, astral projections, mental telepathy, ESP, clairvoyance, spirit photography, telekinetic movement, full trance mediums, the Loch Ness Monster, and the theory of Atlantis?" Right. Like, there's a steady paycheck in it. I believe anything you say. I love it.
I love that.
He was just a nice, they slipped him in. He was really nice. He fit perfectly. Right. Just good little added comedic. And I think what's interesting is obviously they had written that part for Eddie and he just didn't get a chance to do it. I think he was filming Beverly Hills Cop or something, so he couldn't do it. But that part, you can tell, was clearly for Eddie Murphy. Right. But he still ended up doing a great job for that part.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they didn't get, like, a lot of the people in the cast were like kind of people inconvenience. I don't think they originally was going to cast Bill Murray. And then Harold Ramis wasn't going to be in the movie. He was a writer, but he didn't intend to play the part. And I got some of that later on. But yeah, so a lot of this was it was going to be a totally different cast. The characters are going to be totally different. Like Winston Zeddemore, as he is in the movie now, was not going to be as like what we saw. That was going to be completely different. So probably not even that name, right? Right. So when they couldn't, like when the studio couldn't get Eddie Murphy, they kind of had to rewrite the script a little bit because it was going to be wrapped a little bit around, because it's Eddie Murphy. He's not going to show up in the middle of the movie, right?
Right. I mean, he knew them. I'm sure he was friends with Aykroyd.
Yeah,
and all of
yeah.
them, so
he was on Saturday Night Live, so yeah, he was.
Right.
I
so
think
they knew
was,
each other. Right.
And they've been in. I don't know if he was in with Dan Aykroyd before Ghostbusters, but I know that they did a couple. Like that was a Trading Places.
Well, yeah.
So
yeah,
I think that was that may have been before Ghostbusters. So
definitely,
I'm not exactly sure the timeline, but yeah, you're right. They knew each other. They were Saturday Night Live alumni. So yeah, it was. I could see him having a bigger role in the movie. And let me see. Like I said, I'm going back to my notes. That's why I'm not exactly looking at you right now. I'm looking at these notes.
It's cool. It's cool. Me too.
And, I'm trying to figure out what I want to put as my last part. Because I realized I mentioned some of these already. So I think I'm going to put a part that I didn't write down, if I can remember what that was. Nope, I just forgot it. I just added it in my mind. You ever have that thing when you're thinking about something?
Oh yeah,
and
all the
like,
time, dude. I'm getting old. Stuff does not. If I don't say it immediately, it goes away.
Right. It's like, oh, it's gone and it's never coming back. I'll think of it after this conversation is completely over.
Yeah, when we're done. When we're done recording, it'll come to you.
Right. Okay, I think I remember what it was. So, what you call it? So you have Janine is trying to basically she's really trying to get close to Egon. She's trying so hard, right? And I like that little thing that they have where she's and I don't even know if he understands that she's hitting on him, right? But because it's not like he's not like he's ignoring her, but he's just not catching on.
He's oblivious.
Right?
He's oblivious. He doesn't get it. He's a scientist.
Right. So I like that. And so one of the things she asks him is, do you have any hobbies? And he says, I collect spores, molds, and fungus, right? So that's really funny. And then another part that I like specifically on Egon is when he says, so they're walking around, and I think this is before they actually start ghost busting or whatever. And Peter says, hey, Egon, remember that time when I stopped you from drilling a hole in your head? And Egon says, that would have worked if you hadn't stopped me, Peter. But he kind of says it like casual. It's like casual. Like it's like he's not even really saying it as a punchline. He's kind of just like musing it. And so that I really enjoyed that. So that's pretty much all of my favorite parts. Well, I actually got more, but I'm going to cut it off right there. Do you have anything else that you wanted to add?
No, of course. The Stay Puft Man.
Oh,
that's the best. That's the best. Like the choice has been like, all right, choose your. I get you who's gonna do it. And like the choice has been like, what happened? Nobody thinks. Say your mind. And like I couldn't do it. Oh my time.
Yeah.
That I love, and the blank stare on his face because he's like he knows.
Right.
Like,
right.
He's like, don't think, clear your mind, but it's already too late.
Right.
And that's classic in terms of film of the Stay Puft Man just walking down the streets of New York, like, oh. Here he comes.
Right.
It's fun.
I think what it is that what I liked about that scene is, well, everything about that scene. So there's the thing where Egon, in the beginning of the movie, Egon tells them not to cross the streams. And then at the end of the movie, he tells them they're going to have to cross the stream. So that the electron streams. So that's funny. That's fun when they have that conversation about crossing the streams. He said, Egon, you told us that crossing the streams are bad. And then there was a thing where, what you call it? There was something else about that scene that I liked. Okay. So I liked that it was Peter that figured out that the person that you think about was going to come and destroy you. And he was the one who figured out that everybody had to clear their minds, and not think of anything. And so that this destroyer wouldn't come. I don't know how long that would have lasted. Like, how long are you going to be in a rooftop not thinking about anything? That would have been a struggle. Like, how long does that last? But I like that it was Peter that figured it out. So, yeah, that's great. It's a great movie. It's great reminiscing about our favorite parts of the movie. And those of you listening, let us know what your favorite parts are. Obviously, you can email the podcast, and I'll give you the email address, or you can hit us up on social media to tell us what your favorite parts are about Ghostbusters, this classic movie. And obviously, you've seen the newer movies, or some of you have seen the newer movies that came out. So let us know how that compares, if you would. And right now, we're going to head on over to talk about the trivia top 10. All right, the finest trivia across IMDb. Some of it I think I got from other sources, but most of this was from IMDb. So yeah, hit us up. Tell us what it's all about.
All right, the first. When Louis Tully mingles with his party guests, commenting on the price of salmon and so on, the scene is one continuous shot and almost entirely improvised. Damn right it is. It's hilarious. When Venkman mentions the time Spengler tried to drill a hole in his head, Spengler's response, "That would have worked if you hadn't stopped me," was actually ad-libbed by Harold Ramis. Funny.
So many
funny.
good ad-libs. We had just talked about that. So many great ad-libs in this movie. So almost none of the scenes were filmed as scripted. Most had at least one ad-lib. Most of Bill Murray's lines are ad-libs. So yeah, he basically made his own movie. He could have gotten a writing credit.
Yeah, he could have, definitely. In the middle of the film's initial release, to keep interest going, Ivan Reitman ran a trailer that was basically the commercial the Ghostbusters used in the movie. But the 555 number was replaced with a 1-800 number, allowing people to actually call in. Callers got a recorded message of Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd saying something to the effect of, "Hi, we're out catching ghosts right now." They got 1,000 calls per hour, 24 hours a day for several weeks.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. I wish I had known about that. I don't know if I ever seen that commercial, but that commercial reminds me of all the commercials that you saw during that time, right? The lawyer commercials, mainly the lawyer commercials that were like that, or sometimes the plumbing commercials, because I think that's what they were aping, was like the plumbing commercials at the time. If you grew up in the Washington D.C. area, there was Carvel ice cream. And there was this dude who had his voice was like he smoked 1,000 cigarettes a day, or like he had like 6 like cigars in his mouth at all times. So it's like when his voice was rough when he spoke. So this rough voice would come on the commercial talking about, "Come on over to get your Carvel ice cream, and you can get Snowy the whale," or whatever that whale was. That whale was the thing at the end of the commercial, and he had ice cream cakes. You never got that. They still sell Carvel ice cream cakes.
Yes, they do.
And I can go to Safeway and pick one up, but I never had one. I think I should do that. According to Aykroyd, he wrote the script with himself, John Belushi, and Eddie Murphy in mind to star. Sadly, Belushi's unfortunate death meant that the film would have to be changed considerably. Murphy's supposed involvement has met with contradictory accounts, with Ivan Reitman saying that Murphy was never offered the role, and Aykroyd insisted that Murphy was practically cast. Murphy also confirmed that he was offered the role that eventually became Winston Zeddemore, but had to decline due to having already signed to star in Beverly Hills Cop. So this is just kind of rehashing what we just talked about earlier,
right?
Which was released in 1984 as well. So it was released the same year. Had he been cast, Murphy's character would have been closer to the Peter Venkman character, and it would have been Murphy that was slimed in the hotel. And that actually came from Screen Rant. So Murphy was going to be, I don't know if he was going to be the star of the movie, but he would have had a higher profile than Winston Zeddemore was. So he probably would have been one of the doctors or one of the researchers at the university, right? So I think that's how, but it would have been a very different movie. I don't even know if it would have been. Yeah, that would have been very interesting movie.
And I, as a random movie person with Beverly Hills Cop, that originally was written for Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
And which is when you consider how movie history would have changed, because that movie would have been terrible. I mean, if you think about it, because he pretty much ad-libbed so much of that movie. When I watch, I feel like I found out about that afterwards. Because when you watch Beverly Hills Cop, like there's only like one other black person in the movie. I'm like, it's clear they ain't write that for Eddie.
Right.
When then I think when Sylvester's like, no, he couldn't do it because he was doing Cobra, I believe. That's what
no, here's what happened. Not that he was doing Cobra, but this movie eventually became Cobra. So they what happened was they wrote Beverly Hills Cop, and it was going to be a serious movie, and it's so vastly rewritten that they basically took the script and they made Cobra out of it. So it was Cobra is what happens when you cast Sylvester Stallone in Beverly Hills Cop. Because it wasn't supposed to be a comedy. It only became a comedy after they cast Eddie Murphy.
That makes sense, I guess. And he ran with it and made it one of the best movies of the 80s by far. It's always good. Let's see. Harold Ramis only intended to write the film. He decided to play Dr. Egon Spengler after he felt he was the best person suited for the role. And he was right.
Yeah, he was right.
I'm sure was right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is one of my favorite things. So the melted marshmallow was actually shaving cream. The scene where the load of melted marshmallows gets dumped on Walter Peck, that's the EPA man. In preparation for the scene, William Atherton, who played Peck, asked how much shaving cream they were going to dump on him. The stunt people said about 75 pounds. Atherton pointed out that 75 pounds of shaving cream is still 75 pounds. So they tested it on a hapless stuntman, and when 75 pounds of shaving cream landed on the stuntman, it flattened him. At the point of the stunt team removed about half of the cream so that Atherton could perform the stunt. So I guess what he received was around 30 pounds. Because it's like...
yeah, that's a lot. Like, you're just going to dump that on me? That's going to hurt. You can kill me with that. Chill.
It's funny, right? Because it's like the conversation that what's heavier, a pound of steel or a pound of feathers. It's still a pound. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, I think he's like, you said 75 pounds, right? I feel like that was his thing, like pounds, not ounces, pounds.
Right. That's,
oh my God.
That's crazy. It's like they weren't even thinking.
It turns out, he was smart. He was smart.
I'm glad they had a test stuntman for that.
I hope that dude's okay.
Right.
When the Ghostbusters agreed to cross the streams to defeat Gozer, Winston claims this job is definitely not worth $11,500 a year. At the time of the movie, a salary of $11,500 per year implied a weekly salary of $221 or a monthly salary of $958. By the way, this movie was done in New York. You can't do anything.
Right.
You can't live. You can't eat.
You can't
adjusted for inflation. You can't do anything. Adjusted for inflation, the yearly salary for a Ghostbuster in 2023 will be $32,259 with a monthly salary of $2,810 or a weekly salary of $1,463. You still can't do nothing.
Right.
That's not even a studio apartment, man.
Right. Like New York is way different back then. So you could probably live off of that in New York back then. But now that'd be impossible. Like you'd be hard pressed to have to live off a weekly salary of $1,400 in Washington, D.C. Well, now I don't want to say Washington, D.C. because that's super expensive, but like the surrounding area in the suburbs, you're basically living in one of the poor apartments.
Yes, true. So true.
Or if you're lucky enough to have bought a house in like the 80s, and maybe you could get by, living in a house, but that would be hard.
Mm-hmm.
So the schedule for getting this movie into theaters for its release date in the summer of 1984 was so tight, director Ivan Reitman said that the final print included incomplete special effects and shots and errors like visible wires, but remarkably, nobody didn't care. And that is correct. Because when you look at some of the shots like Slimer, Slimer looks way faded, right? He look funny. The dogs, the Gozer dogs, they look kind of funny. But you didn't care because the movie was so good that you didn't necessarily care about the movies.
We're not into semantics. We just love the film.
Right, right. I think that the lesson here is that if your movie is good, then your special effects, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter how good or how bad they are, but it will lessen, if it's a bad special effects, it will lessen the impact of that bad special effects. And if it's a good movie with great special effects, the special effects aren't going to matter. Well, if it's a bad, I said it wrong. What I meant to say, if you have a bad movie with great special effects, the special effects aren't going to matter. And then people are going to complain that it's just a special effects movie, right? So, I think that's a lesson that people need to take to heart.
Definitely. What was I going to say? Exterior scenes of the Ghostbusters headquarters were filmed at the Hook and Ladder number 8 firehouse in the Tribeca section of New York City. Inside the firehouse are a Ghostbusters signs and photos taken with the cast and crew.
Yeah, so that's pretty neat. They use that, I guess, I'm not exactly sure, but it looks like they use that location in the Frozen Empire movie. So it was nice to see the firehouse again in that movie.
That's cool.
Finally, we have, according to an interview with Mix Magazine Online, Ray Parker Jr. tried to create a song for the movie for 2 days. At 4 a.m., he saw a commercial for a drain company that reminded him of a scene from the film. I guess we're talking about the commercial that they did, Ghostbusters, We're Ready to Believe You. So that commercial helped him coin the popular line, "Who you gonna call?" which makes sense, right? Yeah, so that's pretty awesome. Mm-hmm. So that's it for the trivia. I hope you found the trivia interesting. I hope that you learned something. And now we're going to go on to the next segment. We're going to find out what the critics thought. So the critics gave it a 95%. The audience score was 88% on Rotten Tomatoes. IMDb reviews has it at 7.8 out of 10. So it seems to be in line with IMDb. I wonder, I have not joined, I've joined, but I haven't fully invested in Letterboxd yet, but I don't know. I'm thinking about doing Letterboxd. It's kind of a social media / film review website. So at first I was ardently against it because I got too many things to deal with right now. But now I'm thinking about it. Okay. I'm taking it more seriously because then I can add that to what the critics are thinking on Letterboxd. But in the meantime, while I'm thinking about that, why don't you tell us what the first couple of reviewers are saying about Ghostbusters?
So Brandon Collins from Medium Popcorn said, "This has a long legacy in cinema that is worth considering, but I surprisingly did not enjoy rewatching this. I found myself shrugging my shoulders a lot and being bothered by him. Like, he's not this seriously. This is not The Godfather. It's the Ghostbusters. Chill with that character." Oh my God. And Zoe, I'll read this one and we'll go back. Zoe Rose Bryant from Loud and Clear Reviews. "Ghostbusters galvanized the comedy genre as a ferociously funny fable with state-of-the-art special effects and scares to spare." They cut a check for her to say that.
I don't know.
Nothing state of the art. Maybe for 84, because I'm sure 83 is when they're filming it. It comes out in 84. State of the art is a strong term.
I think that because they did have some incomplete effects, but then some of the effects were definitely completed. So I don't know. It's like people got different. What do you call it? They got different perspectives on what special effects is supposed to look like. So people got different tolerances. Like sometimes, like for example, there was a movie called Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. So in that movie, I thought the special effects were great. I liked it. It looked really convincing to me. But then somebody else saw the special effects and they were like, well, for them, the special effects were not convincing. So I think that people have different perspectives on special effects. And because they weren't great, but like I said, at the same time, because even when I watched it in 84, they didn't look especially great. But I never took it as a serious movie where the special effects had to be top notch. I always appreciated the movie for what it was as a comedy. So it's like if you're watching Saturday Night Live, you're not looking for state of the art special effects. You want the movie to make you laugh, and that's what this movie does. And as far as like Brandon Collins was saying, I've heard the complaint about Zedmore before, and I think he's kind of alluding to the fact that they kind of, it seemed like they shoehorned a black man in the movie in the middle of the movie, and he didn't seem to have much of an arc. He kind of had an arc, but he's not one of the main characters, so you don't really expect. It's like you're not focused on him to have a character arc, right? So his character arc was not really believing in some of these supernatural things to fully believing it, to be like fully, because like you can see that when he goes to the mayor's office and he's like, look, Your Honor, I've only been with the company for a couple of months, but I've seen shit that'll turn you white, right?
It's obvious that wasn't written for him, but they ran with it. And I think, yeah, they didn't. I guess the way to look at it is that the only reason there was going to be a black guy in it is because they had the black guy they wanted.
Right.
If they weren't going to get it, if they knew ahead of time, I don't think Eddie was the hottest thing. Of course, you want him in the movie.
Right.
So I feel like that's what it is. And then at this point, we had written him in. We kind of have to keep him. Let's see who we can do. Then you bring people in. Ernie Hudson works out, and you do what you do. So there wasn't a lot to it. Had it been Eddie, as expected, they'd do more. Yeah. It just worked out that way.
If it was Eddie Murphy, he would have been in the whole movie. He wouldn't have just been like in the second half.
10 times. And it went as if this movie needed to be funnier.
Right.
The movie would have been 10 times funnier because of the ad-libs he would have done. It would have been hilarious.
You know what? It would have been better instead of the sequels that we got. And they can still do this because I know that I have a feeling that they're going to do another sequel. But if they can get Eddie Murphy to show up for us, one of the Ghostbusters movie, that would be awesome.
We'll see. Mm-hmm.
So we have Justin Brown from Medium Popcorn. He wrote, "A part of me was for this film because I enjoyed the cartoon series so much. This movie on its own is just okay." And I disagree.
Wholeheartedly. Yeah, I don't even know what that means.
Right. And lastly, we have Zaki Hussan from Zaki's Corner. They wrote, partly because of the cast, partly because of the effects, partly because of Elmer Bernstein's score, and partly because of Ivan Reitman's directing style, it just all worked, and it still does. And with that, I wholeheartedly agree. So yeah, that's Ghostbusters. It's one of the I would consider a classic cinema. That's what I think of it as. It really informed my formative years. Like when I was growing up, it just really impacted me in a profound way. And I follow. That's why I still like when the Ghostbusters cartoon came on. I followed the cartoon. I hated. There was the other cartoon called Ghostbusters that was Filmation, and I did not like Filmation's Ghostbusters, and I could never figure out why Filmation had Ghostbusters and why there was a cartoon called The Real Ghostbusters, and it always bugged me. And years later, I found out that Ghostbusters, the other cartoon, was actually based on a TV sitcom that came out in like 1972 or 1973 or something like that. And like the cartoon, it was about two guys and a gorilla, and they went out and they busted ghosts. And here's the thing about it. So when the people were making the Ghostbusters movie, I don't know who it was that reached out to Filmation, because Filmation produced that live action show, but somebody reached out and was like, hey, we'd like to use the Ghostbuster name. And so Filmation licensed the name of Ghostbusters to the studio so they can call this movie Ghostbusters. And so when they did the cartoon, there's really nothing stopping Filmation from making their own cartoon. So they made their cartoon, and then the studio made the real Ghostbusters. And now you got two cartoons, confusing generations of kids like myself and being angry that there were two Ghostbusters cartoons. I was like, that ain't how it's supposed to go. And there it went. And then I watched all of the, I wasn't as fond as Ghostbusters 2 as as some people are. There, to me, it was because it didn't go in the direction that I wanted it to go. That's basically why. It's like it was hard for me to accept the premise that they put forth. And then, but I just kept watching Ghostbusters and hope that I would get something great. And there was a Ghostbusters Extreme. I only watched a couple episodes of, and I kind of left that behind. And then the Ghostbusters and the I think it was 2014 or whenever that came out with the women, and it had a lot of my favorite comedians in that movie, but it didn't deliver the way I wanted to deliver. And it turned out that the funniest thing in that movie was Chris Helmsworth, and I don't know how that turned out, but he was the funniest part of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And all I wanted,
the comedy chops, yeah.
And all I wanted from that movie was more jokes, and it just didn't deliver on the jokes. Because I like the characters that they represented, but they, as a story or as the movie or as the jokes, they just didn't deliver on the jokes for me.
Yeah.
So, and then I know that there are some people out there that really love that movie, but like I just didn't laugh as often as I'd like. And then after that was the remake, not the remake, but the continuation of the franchise. So there's what was the first one called? Ghostbusters something or other, and that was a cool movie. It was Ghostbusters Legacy or whatever. No, Afterlife. So it's Ghostbusters Afterlife, and that was a nice homage to the fans of the original film. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, less so. There were some neat things that they did with that, but like my continuous complaints is that this is supposed to be a comedy. Bring me the jokes. I want to be laughing in my seat. I want to have a bellyache because this movie was so funny. But you don't always get what you want.
Agreed.
Any more comments that you got about Ghostbusters?
I think Bill Murray's the star of this thing. It's a campy thing. It's funny. For me, I guess the biggest comment I would make is that it's an 80s movie, and that's what it is. And because I love that decade so much, that it fits. Like, it's not great acting, it's not a great story, it's just funny. It's like it's the decade of movies like that and Caddyshack and all these kind of movies. It's just 80s funny, but you have characters that you love forever, and this movie will always be huge. It will always be, I guess, Generation X, I guess, if we love that movie.
Right.
We're watching growing up, and it's just fun. And it's one of those movies, and I don't know, that should be a draft one day or a list or something. One of those movies that comes on, and essentially no matter where you pick it up, you finish it.
Yeah.
It comes on, I'm watching it from wherever it is till the end. It's a great cast, a bunch of people who look like they like each other. It looks like they were having fun. That's what I think. So one of my favorite 80s movies, the best decade for movies and music and TV and all that stuff. So Ghostbusters is a classic and always will be.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there we have it. So I am going to move on to the next movie that I'll be talking about, I guess, next week. I'm confused about my own schedule, but look out for me talking about Get Shorty. As of this recording, no, actually, I wrote that in the wrong spot. As of this recording, Ghostbusters is available on streaming, and I don't remember which channel I watched it on, but it's out there somewhere. Well, I mentioned Get Shorty because that's the next movie that I'm going to be doing, and it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to explain what Get Shorty is about. I know it's mobsters and movies, I think. Something like that. Stars John Travolta and I think Penny Marshall. I want to say Penny Marshall. So I
directed
remember,
it?
Huh?
She's not in the movie. Penny Marshall's not in the movie. Did she direct it?
No, I think she's in. She probably has a cameo, but I'm like 90% sure she's in the movie.
Because I mean, I think maybe she's randomly in there.
I think she's playing herself because it's about a mobster going in a movie
in there
business.
real quick. Danny DeVito's in there,
right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Get Shorty is actually a really good movie. These mobsters who want to be actors who are in Hollywood. Delroy Lindo is in there. It's a good. Yeah, that's going to be fun. That's
Here's the thing.
A good one to talk about.
I know that I enjoyed this movie But as I just said, I'm having trouble remembering it or the concept. So I definitely want to do a rewatch. And I can definitely tell you this. I didn't, even though I enjoyed the movie, the first time I watched it, I didn't fully understand it. So one of the reasons I want to do this rewatch is to get a fuller understanding of Get Shorty. So, and this is actually a remake. So the Get Shorty I'm talking about is obviously the 1995 version. So join me next week as I dive in to Getting Shorty. And you can follow us on TikTok, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and all the other things at Backlook Cinema. And if you post on any of those platforms, I will see if I can find you. Don't forget you can contact us with any questions, comments, or suggestions at fanmail@backlookcinema.com. So Harvey, do you have any additional plugs? You got so many things going on. Did I miss anything?
No, I got a lot. No, this is all good. Every Saturday, feel free to go to HarveyLaguerre.com to check out episodes of Men of the P.R.I.Z.E. I'm in season 3. So if you want to catch something new, you can watch the first 2 seasons. I've had the pleasure of speaking to a lot of men talking about our mental health. And I really enjoy that. In terms of Love is Black, what we've been doing, we're in season 5 of this one. You can find that on Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. This season 5, we've been writing the great Black American love story. So every week, and we've kind of been hit or miss because it's hard to write a book like on demand. But every other week, it's my wife writes one character, I write the other. And we've been splitting off and talking about it. So it's been really fun doing that. And of course, throughout the summer or every Tuesday, you can find us on I Did Not Make These Rankings Podcast Network. Just look that up. You'll find us. And we randomly talk about fun subjects. As your host knows, we get up in there. It's serious, but we have a fun time. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. This was fun.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate that. And let me ask you one more question specifically about Love is Black.
Sure.
Do you feel like doing that podcast has helped strengthen your relationship, or does it cause like stress in your relationship? How does that work out?
No. It's communication. The first season was just about us, just talking about our relationship and how we got together. Mm-hmm. It forces us to kind of talk about our relationship. So it's definitely improved it. We've had we've never argued on there, but we've had some heated discussions on there talking about stuff. Right. But then in the seasons, we would bring in guests. So season 2, we brought in couples so we could hear their love stories. Season 3, we brought in guests, but we talk about stuff. And then we started talking about current events and stuff that's going on. But it's something we always wanted to do. So it's something that we get to do together, and we have a lot of fun with it. So our relationship is even better for it. And this season has been really fun. So anytime I can hang out with my wife without our kids running around, I'm cool with it. So no, it's been successful. It's been a success.
Awesome. I look forward to seeing you on your various platforms, and I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for coming on. It's been a blast having you. It's been great to talk about these great movies. And thank you, dear listener, for joining us. I appreciate this community diving into this show to just chill out and chat and whatnot. So that's it for this episode. I've been Zoe Richardson. Be safe, share a movie from yesteryear with your family, hug your loved ones, and if you're going to be anything, be outstanding.